Good day. Much love to you and yours. um, I want to talk about the conditioning and the trauma that's going on in the community right now. I want to talk about the female essence and spirit, the off balance that's going on with the feminine energy, and just give it a different shape or picture. I'm going to tell you what I see. You can agree with me or not. I'm going to let you know my experience partly as well. Well, obviously, because it's coming from my experience as a woman. As a woman, and I'm 52 now, so I've been watching a lot of things happen. So this is my experience. As a woman, we're taught to do less. You know, don't move around, don't fidget, don't prance, don't let yourself be seen. You know what I'm saying? Don't dance. Show yourself less. Cover yourself. That your clothing is what did it. Your clothing is what will attract people or repel people. So to be less visible, don't go out. Okay? And so there was a point that I was taught that women who did those things deserved whatever they had coming to them. Good day. I'm talking about what we're taught as women. My first experience was, as a child was, don't move around, cover yourself up, and don't attract attention to yourself. And that if you did those things, you're going to be okay. But that's not true. Because as I grew, you see women who are fully garbed who are being raped and abused. You see women who are fully dressed and women who don't carry themselves in any particular way that would attract unwanted attention to themselves still get caught up in that as victims. One second, I need my little fan. Oh, there we go. So that doesn't make any sense. There was a lot of things that I was trying to figure out why they were still happening because it wasn't. Good day, beloved. Hi, Tabby. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm talking about this female thing, and I'm just talking about my experience as a woman, how I thought it was. What they said to me when I was growing up was, don't bring attention to yourself. So you think that there's certain rules that apply to being a woman, and if you follow them, everything's going to be okay. So then, how do you explain being molested in your own home by your own father, by your own uncles? How do you explain watching the TV as an altar boy gives his story of being molested? Yep. She said that's not true. She was molested as a child as well. How do you explain women that are fully clothed and in areas that are supposed to be where they can shine at in their own homes being exploited and sexually abused? And we're going to get to that. So none of that applied. So I was like, well, what's going on? And it's a spirit. It's a mentality. Okay? And molestation goes deeper. And the spirit of wanting to victimize people and wanting to dominate others, the feminine, the creative spirit, the gentle parts of ourselves goes very deep in the melanated community. Like we literally pride ourselves on being tough and taking out that sucker, looking for the sucker, taking him out, that weak person, the geek, the dumbass, the weak link. If you ain't killer, if you're not cutthroat, if you ain't about your money, if you ain't getting yours. So then when we look for gentleness and we look for peace and we look for that feminine energy, the healing, the tenderness, the creativity, you see what we're coming up with is the male-dominated version of it, where we're totally exploited and our voice really isn't heard. So that was one thing. It totally confused me as a woman. So I learned that there was no accountability for men. They weren't responsible for what they did. If they saw you and they saw something that they desired and you were wearing something that someone else thought was inappropriate, then whatever you got, you deserved. So the men didn't have to have any restraint. The men were allowed to walk around as animals. And so you had to protect yourself from that. But that's confusing, because how can you protect yourself from that if you can be fully covered and the same thing can still happen to you? So that's the trauma there. It's kind of like the Nazi when they train, when they mind control people. And it's darned if you do, darned if you don't. The doctor comes in the room and he's playing all this noise. The person just wants to rest their mind. And he asks them a question. Did you do it? They'll say, yes, I do it. I'll sign anything. I'll say anything to make you stop this torture, this pain, this violence. Now, it's just noise, but it's violence because it's confusion. So then the doctor punishes them. It doesn't stop. But the person agreed to do whatever it was that the doctor wanted. So he comes back and he says, did you do it? So now the person says, okay, say, no, I didn't do it. That'll stop it. And that doesn't stop it either. So that's the state of women. Yes, she's agreeing with me. You know, that's the state of women in our culture. And you wonder why we're so nutty. Now, the man, this is one rule that we're looking at. He doesn't have any accountability towards a woman in that regard. Basically, in general. Okay. He can wiggle out of things. If she's done certain things, no one will listen to her. There's literally been stories of women jumping out windows butt naked in certain cities, looking beat up and tortured, and people won't touch them in certain neighborhoods. If you get caught out and they don't know what's going on, and there's so much trauma going on, so much trauma, this is normalized. We don't know what she did. We're not going to get in the middle of it. We're just going to kind of stand back and watch. We stand back and watch, knowing that child is being abused, hearing that accusation that child said. We stand back and watch. Our mentality is now, what did they do to deserve it? They must have done something, because most of us who are not in a red light district, are not in a hustle in life, or not doing anything to make money that's illegal, where you know, okay, well, there's certain rules to this. If you get caught up, there's certain things that can happen. We're talking about everyday people, working people, church-going people, mosque-living people, people who go to school and raise their children to go to college, and you know what I'm saying? We're talking about everyday people getting caught up in this. So, incest and rape, because of all the trauma that's attached to it that we're not talking about, can lead to blame for the woman, not the man. When you were molested, did they blame you? Because when I was molested and I was violated, I was blamed, and I was named the problem child. So it must have been something that I did. And from then on, it snapped something in me, because I couldn't trust the adults. They didn't protect me. And now I was the enemy because I opened my mouth. And they still had to take care of me, dress me, put food on the table, look at my eyeballs every day. Can you imagine looking at people that don't want to deal with that crap, and you're the problem, and they still got to provide for you and feed you? What the heck are you here for? Is the kind of attitude I got. Freaking troublemaker. Just shut up and sit down over there somewhere, please. Stop making trouble. And every family gathering or time that they had an opportunity to talk with the other family members, that was the narrative, that I was the problem, that I was a liar, that I was a troublemaker. And so that child or that person that's getting raped or molested, and it's happening a lot to males too. I did mention the altar boy, but it's happening a lot more in regular families now. Look at the repetitive rate of men being incarcerated and being indoctrinated into that lifestyle of jail, where they never even got a chance to curb their inhibitions to and their desires, because they're not taught that. Okay, it's a big disservice to our men not to teach them. Now, I've said this before, not to teach them to control their sexual desires. A great disservice. She said her own mother told her to shut up and never tell. And when I showed her what happened, she spanked me. That's the same thing that happened to me. Yes, you get that spank, that too. And told to shut up. And that's why I never told anything else or anybody up until last year. And I held it in for so long, all my life. And all the way down, she's agreeing with me. This is my only viewer that I'm looking at right now. And there are so many of us women who go through this. It's not just melanated people, but I'm talking about how it saturated us and how we're not talking about it. There's so much pain here. The lack of control and the lack of comprehension that we have about our own sexual energy, you know, about our own, to own our own bodies fully, our own creativity, not just the outside, but our creativity, our mentality, what we're thinking. So the men, we're told they're not responsible for that, because if you're not responsible for this, what I'm talking about, then you're not responsible for anything. You might as well keep your little short pants on. You know, you can't get big boy pants. And that's when they start talking about how the black man or the melanated man is not capable of governing himself. He can't take care of his own woman. He was never taught how to control himself. He was told it's okay to be an animal when it comes to his sexual desires. That he could just, and men in general, but I'm saying who bought it? Who bought it? Hook, line, and sinker more than anything. When you look at the rap music, when you look at the culture, when you look at the way that we treat ourselves. It seems like we bought that fully. So let's go down. We get the labeling as a troublemaker and a liar. She confirmed that. So this leads to a lot of mental health situations. And we start acting out. You're ostracized from your family. The parental figure or the person that was supposed to protect you has defied you, has left you hanging, has beaten you, and told you to shut the blip up. And now you're shamed. And you're lied on and you're isolated. So the pre-labeling and the programming, you're walking around with this label. And that person that took care of you, or the caretakers, or the other people that are parental figures in the culture, are now lying on you and helping to make that transition into finding other healthier connections more difficult. So your emotional health and your programming, it affects your emotional health. This is the program, and it affects your opportunities. Okay? When you have zero family support or lack of family support, it really does do something to you. That's vitally important. And we really never learned since we got out of the stranglehold of slavery, since we lost our positioning as Moors, since the Trail of Tears, since the economic decline, since the theft of our culture, since we were told we were nothing and then a whole civilization was built on top of it, and we were lied to, we were molested, We were raped. But you just shut up about it. You just shut up about it and move on. And many times, even academically, we were told we were lying. How much? How many scholars I have went through studying our African history and things that have happened that were not well known and didn't profit from it economically, barely at all, you know. But it was their journey. It was what they were meant to do. That she or he that has been violated now goes and makes a family, and they have unresolved issues. So then now they're a personality type. They're no longer themselves. They've got this hole in them. And they're either pre-selected as either, now in this state, this is where hurt people. Now you're either a victimizer or a victim. That's where this victim mentality is coming in also. Okay? So shh. You don't know anything about control because nobody ever gave you any control or taught you any. That's why you don't know. This is our community, and people are doing it. Okay, so this actually builds up allegiance for the perpetrator, which ends up being, look at these organizations, children's homes being reported of abusing people, government agencies being reported of child harvesting and things like that. The places now that we have went to, we were taught to go, are the go-to place, the safe place, we are learning are not safe. So we're molested. We feel violated again. Oh, but I'm talking about women, aren't I? Or am I talking about the feminine spirit, the creative spirit, the healing spirit, the nurturing spirit, that part of ourselves that's lacking in our community? The 4 stages of grief. We're wounded. Bargaining, depression, acceptance, we submit. It's a behavioral science, you know. There are certain things people do when they're traumatized. There's a cycle of violence, tension building, incidents over the abusive stage, reconciliation stage, and calm stage. To me, that sounds a lot like our holidays within our culture. You know, you get February, put a little Band-Aid on it. And you get Christmas and Easter and all these other little days to eat comfort foods, to put little shiny-ish all over the place, and Tinseltown to go buy things to make ourselves feel better, to change the rhythmic patterns in the abuse. So we even lie to our children to help them feel that. Tell them there's a Santa Claus and there's an Easter bunny and there's a tooth fairy. Put some little sugar on this ish that we're feeling every day, and it helps us to join in. This is all the programming. None of that is nurturing our spirituality and the actual issues that we're dealing with, or that we should be dealing with. So we get molested again and we spend all our money. Mentally raped. Totally out of control. Spend our money looking for something that we're not even going to find in those things. Okay? Our lives take shape. Our societies take shape. Universal law says lack of liberation. Addiction is a sign of lack of liberation. Addiction is a sign of lack of liberation. When you have lack of liberation and all this restriction and all this violence going on, energy never dies. It only transforms. It has to go somewhere. So those who do social engineering, who shape up and mold these societies and structure these different area codes, these sectors, they know. And so we began the experimentation to try to let go of that pressure. Some of us do risky behavior. We do regular use of consumption, alcohol, the normalization, even during the Depression or Prohibition. Alcohol used to be illegal, even during some of the most trying times. People wanted to escape and drank alcohol. And the reason why they did is because this pain and frustration has to go somewhere. And there's times the government knew they allowed for certain spaces to let that outlet rather than trouble. So this need for an outlet, the things that we do, food, shopping, a like, a share, some attention. I mentioned the risky behavior. Other addictions come into play through the experimentation, through looking for a way to express, a way to outlet, a way to vent. Okay? Normalization. It's in the language and in the syntax when it comes to social engineering. Okay? Permission, normalization. It's normal to drink alcohol. It's normal to smoke marijuana now. It's normal to take prescription medications. When we hear it's normalized, it's legal, we say, oh, the programming. Okay. So if they tell us to go and do something else that we really don't want to do, but it's normalized and it's legal, we're more likely to go and do it because we're already in a trauma state. When you're in a trauma state, it changes the neurons in your brain. It changes your condition. It puts you off balance. It off balances you. Neurologically, it off balances your aura. Your ship is, you know what I'm saying? You're not sitting solid. You're rocky. You're in a state of trauma. And a lot of us is hyped up like, whoa, wait. Look at New York people. Whoa, what? They're hyped. Look at people who live in really big cities. We've normalized trauma and made relaxing or finding ways to relax without substances like alcohol or marijuana or legalized prescriptions odd. And then when they do give it to people, the normalization of it is commercialized, like yoga is becoming, yoga pants central. And half the people who wear yoga pants don't even know not one yoga position. Okay. Now, this is a part of how the social engineering goes, is that when you study behavioral science, you know that there's so many days that builds a pattern, and that's how we get into this groove and set into this rhythmic state of normalization, of normalizing trauma, is in AA they say do a 90 and 90 because that sets people into a pattern and a rhythm, and they've gotten in the support of not drinking. So that it sets them further and further into the new pattern of healthy living and further away from the way that they were living and the patterns that they were used to, right? So we're growing up in this without a new, healthier pattern, okay? Because nothing is being taught to us about the female energy. Nothing different is being taught to us about being a woman. So we go for the alcohol, the drugs, the likes, the shares, the comments, the new clothes, the promises and hopes. Even change the dopamine and the neurons in the brain. A hope, a promise, a dream, a big booty, and a smile is mind control. It changes our auras. And you need trauma to utilize mind control. Ask the Nazis. Look at some of those old tapes, how they programmed the MK person, the Manchurian candidate. Because of the chemical imbalances, it causes confusions. The person's off balance. There's a feeling of not being in control. And at this state, in the melanated community, that is the domestic violence. And so that's why I'm saying it like this. So we're looking at the thing that's happening with women individually, but it's actually a spirit of molestation and rape and dominance that we learn from somewhere else, that we kind of like to hold on to because we don't know any other patterns, nor are most of us looking for it because it's been normalized. So we've gotten into a comfort groove of being in a trauma state, not thinking. This is the state of us. Violence is not just physical. Preventing emotional and mental or intellectual progress is violence. According to universal law, every being has the right to grow up. Every human has the right to grow up and to fulfill themselves as a mature being. our spiritual energies and our essences. That's what we're here to do. Is to develop it and cultivate it. That part belongs to the Most High. So the stabilization of families comes from this. And it's fractal. You destabilize the person with drugs and with corrupted thoughts, with pornography, with telling them it's okay to touch children, with telling them it's okay to be violent towards the woman, with telling them that they're less than a man, with telling them they have to compensate and feel like a man somehow. So where are you going to get that, son? Oh, go to the club, pop in the music, put on the clothes, go get a like and a share, go get a big booty and a smile, go do something. But you ain't coming over here with these economics, son. You ain't coming over here with the big boys. We're not going to let you grow up. Stay over there with the mullions in a child's place with your short pants on. So you destabilize the person and they're feeling low self-esteem. They're off their axis. They're all shaky. And this destabilizes the families. You feed these concepts of you're not in control and it's not your fault and wait for the Almighty to come down and you will change everything. You don't have to do anything. Leave it to us people over here in the church. Leave it to us people in the government. Leave it to us people who know better. And nothing is getting done. You end up with this destabilization of neighborhoods and cities via our institutions falling short without the proper tools to address these issues. It takes a neighborhood to raise a child. These children grow up to become adults. And we're bringing the trauma with us and not becoming adults because it's not being addressed. In this trauma, you can insert suggestion. Okay? Oh, and some of those areas, some of those ways that something become broken. Look at Haiti, Jamaica, Mexico, Cuba, and many other places. that have been cut off from economics. Remember I said economics and intellectual, stifling those things, and emotional and mental health can cause the shutdown of whole communities, not just an individual. And in that trauma state is a time to insert suggestion. And that's why when people like myself and Tabby were given a spanking after we were violated, and they told us we were troublemakers. Shut your mouth, go over there and shut up. Don't make no problem. We got the suggestion. And perhaps went out and acted out, especially without the proper family support. And what is happening to the melanated community? Like a child who's been violated and spanked and given a suggestion. You're nothing. We're everything. You're not responsible. Wait for something to come and float on in there and just help you right in the state that you're in. Agape. But you don't got to have agape. You don't got to work on nothing, son, because we don't expect you to. We know you're broken and we like the labels. I noticed how much in the conversation when I was listening years ago, how we love to adopt the trauma. We want to take the label. I was listening to people saying, I'm this and I'm that, and not I'm feeling this and I'm feeling that, but I am depressed. Not I'm feeling depressed. I'm feeling depressed right now. I'm going through a depressive state. I am angry. Now I'm feeling anger right now. I'm feeling frustration right now. Like it's going to pass, and the language and the syntax is something that intellectual, educational stuff, they didn't teach us about words for a reason. By design, we're the children that you could make money off of, because now we need to go buy those clothes. We need to go, because we can't solve it ourselves. We're feeble-minded, like the woman is supposed to be. As a community, you need to go to the therapist. You need to go to the government. We need to go everywhere else for everybody else to solve it, to fix it. And as we're rejecting our own, I know that they're messing with the sound on this, but I'm doing my best. There's nothing I can do about that. I try to fix it later. They hijack our brightest and butter them up and give them pillows and fluff and all the stuff that we're supposed to be doing. You're bright, you're brilliant, you're beautiful, you're worth something, you're valuable to us. We need you. You're worthy of us coming to you and asking you questions instead of going over there to that other person, that other structure that has been normalized, even though they're killing us now. So we don't know what to do. There's this trauma going on where there's this sheep inside of this structure and mentally unable to navigate outside of it. And that's trauma. That's no different than a woman who is being abused or stuck in a trauma state of mind because of the victim, because of the abuse, or Stockholm syndrome. Because of the lack of tools to be able to adjust to a higher state of mentality because the trauma is still going on. And so now you can insert a suggestion when you go to those places. We're easily exploitable. Buy this, take this, do this. Okay, whatever it takes to get rid of this feeling. If you, sir, tell me that I need that, I will do it. If you from that establishment, which has been normalized as our culture, is going to help me with that, then I'm going to do it. Okay? And we give them the respect that we should be giving ourselves, that we should learn to give ourselves. And it starts with the woman, with the mother, with the ones who are wiping your butts and putting on your little diapers and clothing you and looking in your eyes every day when you're a child. It starts with healing that pain when we look at our children and our grandsons and our daughters and acknowledging that pain. There's nothing that hits you so deeply as when you haven't addressed your own freaking pain, and then you watch the mirror reflection of your own children going through that same freaking pain, and it's unresolved. It's not just watching the other reflections of you through other people's children and other versions of you as an adult going to and fro that you see, and you look at people and you say, oh, there but for the grace of God, there go I. Or you recognize something in that person, a spirit, kindred spirit. What it takes to fight to get out of that hole. And we're not looking at this right because of the mind control. You out there who hasn't been sexually abused has just as much trauma and reconditioning, reprogramming to do. And you got to fight too. And we give it this different picture. Because your energy is off and it's out of whack, and just being who you are, it is what it is. This is the time of spiritual warfare. It's the time of mending. Lucky we can see it now. We're not just walking around and there's nothing that we could do about it. Everybody is here and born at the time that they're in for a particular reason. Because of the mentality that you have now, if you were to look back during slavery times or during other times, even with the personality that you are, I mean, the kind of woman that I am now, I don't think that I would have been gone if I was in a different part of the world. I'm saying, in certain conditions, I don't know if I would have lasted. So whatever you are and whoever you are, you're perfect by design, by a beautiful, mighty design to be exactly who you are for a reason, and to nurture that. Perfect snowflake, perfect star, perfect sequence, perfect light code sequence that the Most High put inside your carbonated body. And address your trauma. You might not even be able to change your conditions or walk away from it, but you can change the way that you address it, interact with the energy, acknowledge it, and believe me, that alone changes a lot. Changes so much. I like to have solution-based situations when I give my lives and when I teach, when I share certain things. And it's all fractal, like I was saying, it's the person and then the city, the person and the family and then the city and then the state. And then it could be even a whole country and a region. And that's how things like that happen in places like Haiti and Cuba and Jamaica and Mexico. Okay. So what repairs that is no matter what's going on, meditation is important, and finding times to have a blissful aura. That no matter what's going on, to find times to nurture yourself and your own spirit outside of the pain and hurt and abuse that's going on. Okay? Within our communities. Find times for harmony. Harmony and things working together actually repairs the fractures in the land. And when there's a break in the auric field, a break, it causes pain. And this pain attracts, the breach allows for etheric vampires, spiritual vampires to come in. And that also works on a fractal level. So the happiness and the joy that you can provide for yourself naturally can seal and fix the breach that we were exposed to through the trauma. Finding ways to celebrate yourself and to have joy that don't cause pains to others. So that's why, with all that I said, that the men have been reduced to female submission. This is what I mean. It's not just a woman, and it's the Most High has a sense of humor, and it's ironic. And this is the way the energy flows together, and that you find the connectivity and the immersion, and how it all fits together is that we can't escape it. Women, we got to tend to our male energy too, which is out of whack, totally out of whack, because of the same situation. Protecting ourselves and letting our desires and things like that become unadjusted to where we're willing to do a number of different things that throw your energy off in order to have things that we don't actually need. And some of us are actually having to do certain things that make us act out and distort or violate the male energies in order to survive. And this needs to be balanced out because we're energy beings, and that is the accountability and the responsibility of being alive, of being a thinking being, of being compassionate, is realizing in a way that our auras and our personalities and our lives rub off and affect one another's. It's a choice to express ourselves. And so through social engineering and by design, these things have been happening, and there's a growing disdain for women and melanated people. It's a mindset, it's a thought program. So those without economics and those without knowledge or certain educations, or those who aren't able to project themselves effectively with business, are ostracized and labeled instead of taught, guided, or just appreciated for what they are, finding a place for that energy to fit within what they are. So in doing this, it becomes this like triad where people feel like they're good for nothing when they're actually good for what they're good for, which is being you. And that's enough. If we're only able to tap in and figure out exactly who we are, not who someone else told us we are, so that they can profit off of us. Made to be a sinking ship, good for nothing but buying crap, learning crap, taking crap, making crap at their jobs, taking their crap from their ideas, instead of developing our own through our own spirit, because we feel like something and we know we are something, and we're not just walking after the design that they gave us. And it all starts with the womb space, with the female creative essence part of ourselves that takes care of the children. That's point zero. That's the front line, is your mama. So that's all I wanted to say as a woman. So all I wanted to say as a teacher. So all I wanted to say as a sister, a cousin, an auntie, a mama, and a grandmama. So I wanted to say as a past black sheep So I want to say, as a person who's dealing with her trauma the best she can under the situation and conditions that we're in today's world, with daughters growing up, a grandson, and watching these men be viciously hurt, because hurt people hurt people. We got women allowing their sons, because of mind control is a trip. Okay? You give a broken person who never had any sense of value for their bodies, was never told that they had any value, a child. Then you give them a desire, a need to have a way out of this trauma. And they already have mind control. They're listening to all kinds of mumble rap songs. They're sipping on gin, watching pornography, exposed to all kinds of demons and spiritual vampires, viruses, because they've already been open and wounded and subjected without worth. And nobody's trying to give them any either. And they have this child and this addiction. And there's this dealer. How many women out there, I mean, it's so sad, sold their children to crack dealers. And then those children grew up. And believe me, they look at the world totally different. And if they need to make $1 and somebody tells them there's organ harvesting available or gang stalking as a career, and they're already broken, it's a lot easier, especially if they're told they can gang stalk from the church. And if they're hustling on the street and people are buying drugs and being hoochies and selling their behinds, and they need $1, if this hussy is missing the kidney, who cares? Because the amount of rage and pain, because nobody ever gave a blip about anything. The world is hard. And this is the conditioning, deliberately designed so that they can continue to prey off of us. And we find ourselves broken and indoctrinate ourselves into these labels where we'd rather be broken. We'd rather not be accountable for raping, for mutilating our own. And it all starts with the woman. We're responsible for healing ourselves and acknowledging that we need to be made whole. But if you're trying to be a tough guy and act like you've got it all together and you have all the answers, you can't do that. And that's where the lies come in when you go to some of these institutions and stuff for help, because they're outdated and they were made, a lot of them, for the wrong reasons, in order to control people in society, which got us right where we are, in a state of trauma and conditioning. We're allowing ourselves not to be responsible for the decisions that we make. And now they got this new issue out here, this new policing with the gang stalking, and that's a whole nother issue. But that's what I wanted to say. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole, Siren Buddha Medicine. Come check me out on YouTube. Feel free, meaning feel liberated enough to care about me back, and like, subscribe, and share. Also, there's Cash App, Life Coach 369A with a lowercase l. Much love to you and yours, and the journey that you have repairing, cultivating, and nurturing who you are. Much love to you and yours. I'm out. Oh, you were there the whole time? Love you too. Thank you. It was good having you here, Tabby. Hi, Adonis. I'm out. We got a lot of work to do, and we can do it.